were having a show, and now we are back with the voice show where we share different stories, different topics, and our aim is to mentor and educate and encourage. Today, we have an amazing visitor, but before that, always remember our show is at Science TV, and it is under the Voice Show or 8 p.m. on Friday, and we also have a repeat on Sunday at 8 p.m. At the same time, this is at Science TV under the Voice Show. Today we have a beautiful lady. Welcome. Maybe you can tell us briefly about yourself.
Okay, my name Damaris Wateri. That is before initially that was my sign name, but because my hand became tired of stretching
Oh,
it, I
you
changed
are
it to
now
Damaris
okay. You are now tired of doing the
because
D.
it matched with the scar that I have on my ear.
So you are tired of just lifting your hand.
Yes.
Okay, that is nice, Damaris. Maybe can you tell us what you do? Are you deaf? Are you hearing? Because maybe we can misunderstand you. You could be hearing and maybe you understand how to sign.
Okay, I'm not hearing. I'm a deaf person, but I can speak well. I can sign well. I grew up in a family of hearing. All my family members were hearing, but when we were growing, some became deaf.
Hearing.
Yes, when I was in class 4, I became partially deaf, and then fast forward to class 6, I became deaf completely. How did I become deaf? When I was in a Kiswahili lesson, I was seated in a front row with my hearing friends. Yes. So the Kiswahili teacher was writing, and I was busy taking the notes, and then she voiced my name, and I didn't hear. So I continued writing. The teacher thought I was ignoring her, and she asked my friend to tap me. So I said I didn't hear you. So the teacher called my mother.
You were in a boarding school
No,
all
it was
day?
a day school.
Okay.
It wasn't far from home. My mother was just at home. So the teacher called my mother, and she told her that your daughter is not hearing. So my mother called an ambulance, an AMREF hospital, and then they took me to hospital. An AMREF, they used a helicopter in Eldoret. So they tried to test my hearing, if I can hear, if I can speak, but we didn't know what disease it was. So my brother used to work in Pallet School for the Deaf, but he was hearing. And then on 207, 208, he became deaf also. So I didn't know what happened, but I think it was just God's plan. My father is a deaf person,
So your father is deaf?
but he wasn't born deaf. He was born as a normal person. In their marriage, I think my father was a teacher. In their marriage, I don't know what happened, and then he became deaf. We don't know what disease it was, but it became deaf. I know my father was involved in an accident, in a motorbike accident. I think that is what led to him becoming deaf. He had a consistent flu, and then eventually it led to deafness. So our firstborn is hearing, the
Okay.
second born is a deaf person, and
And
then
then you are the third born.
yes,
So
I
you are
was
the
the
last
last born.
born.
Yes.
So now between the two brothers and you, I'm sure your father cares for you a lot. Okay. Now you see, when she woke up in a normal day in a school, she entered a class. Just as a normal child, she was hearing, she was learning, and then shock on her. On that very same normal day, something happened. She did not even feel at any point being sick. And the teacher was like, Damaris, Damaris, Damaris. And now today, Damaris, you have decided to be stubborn. You don't even want to answer me, but you could not hear. Damaris, today you have chosen not to listen to anyone. Then later you went to hospital, they did a test, you went back to class. The last time you were here, you were hearing. Then now what has happened? Tell us.
Okay, that time when I left school, the school gave me 1 week to rest.
To stay at home,
Yes, so that I can get better and then I'll go back to school. So the head teacher was my friend. When I went back home and I stayed for 1 week, was my friend and my father they used to study in the same school. So I stayed at home and then I went back to school. My father was deaf, but my father was deaf, and also my brother, and now I'm the last born who was deaf. So both of them, they had experience. So they tried to talk me out and try to explain. Can you lip read? So I tried and trained at home because they were speaking in Kikuyu. So they were ordering me and trying to tell me if and try to see if I can lip read. So I said it's okay. My father wanted to transfer me to another school for the deaf in Nyandarua, but I didn't want to go to that school because my brother was in the same school for the deaf. So all the girls used to shave their hair. So I didn't want to go to that
So
school.
the only reason you refused to go to school is because of shaving, just
Yes,
that.
I didn't want to shave. My hair had really grown big, so I didn't want to transfer to that school. So my father asked me, if you don't want to transfer, make sure you pass your exam. So in class 6, I did my best and passed. In school, they contacted head teacher and they saw consulted with the school and the head teacher, asked if my daughter can learn without having ability to hear. So I sit on front row and give her another opportunity. So the head teacher agreed and I went back to school. The head teacher announced to other students, this girl is deaf, so I need you to care for her and cooperate with her. Whatever she needs, just give her, and for any help, just assist her. If there is any problem, please just report to the teacher. Later, I went back to class. I didn't sit in the center because our school had almost 300 students. So I sat on the front row where there were both hearing students on the same row. So if the teacher had a problem, the teacher didn't treat me any special. She treated me just like any other student equally. So if I did any wrong, any mistake, I was punished as other children. So in my exam, I passed. I became number 1 in class 6. They saw that I had a talent of sports. So they drew me to the pitch and started to exercise. So I ran 100 meter and I ran well. So I tried another sports, volleyball, and jumping, but it didn't really work for me. But for running, it was okay. So I went and competed with other hearing school, other normal school, in different places, in different field. We started on school level and then moved to regional and then national. So I did my job, and later I was really motivated and felt my passion was in running because I ran well in 100 meter. I participated well, and later I moved to national level. Uh, Decided to change my sports to swimming. But on swimming, I tried because my brother was had a passion in swimming, so I learned some swimming skills from my brother. So up to national level, it was all good. I, I was supposed to soon, but the funding was the problem because there were no funding for swimming. In class 7, they later voted me as a bell ringer and I couldn't hear.
So now, hey, now you are becoming a bell ringer, always running, doing it for the hearing, but not for yourself.
Yes, yes. They voted me, they voted for me to become a bell ringer. I asked them why did they choose me? When because they told me because I was a good timekeeper. At home we had a rule that you have to be at home at 6 and then do your duties, and then almost 7 to 8 there the teacher was coming to for tuition. So all of them were there.
So, meaning I can see you were very active in school, and then they decided to give you the responsibility of keeping time.
Yes, and I was okay with that. I was a timekeeper and also as a bell ringer. When I was in class 7 in term 3, we had a new captain at school. We wanted a new captain in school, so they selected different students from different classes to be a new captain girl. So I was a bell ringer, and they saw me. I'm a smart girl. I'm always smart. I study well. I don't have any problems. I'm a good student. I'm motivated in sports. So, but I was a deaf person. I was a deaf student. I used to encourage and motivate other students. Now, for example, for a hearing student and I'm a deaf student, I could learn. They were learning through listening, but I learned through lip reading, and I could collect and understand everything. So I really struggled, and for everything I understood. That's correct. And ran, and I understood everything. So I wasn't worried about passing because other students were helping me and I was helping them to learn. So our former head teacher moved to another school and we got a new head teacher. She befriended me also. Uh, she knew that I was deaf and she looked at my behavior and my character and how I was merging and really relating with other students. She chose 3 students to be head and I volunteered. So they picked 3 students. Later, after the selection, they voted, and the first one was hearing, and I became number 2. So the teacher discussed, and they decided to give Damaris that opportunity to lead the school. So all the teacher agreed and voted for Damaris for me to be the school captain. So through the student chose a hearing, but the decision came from the teachers to select me as the girls captain. I was the girls leader for class 7 and class 8. I passed my exam and I did my KCPE and I got 369, but I was number 5. That time I got an opportunity to join high school in Form 1 at Nyandarua. We were all hearing. In only my family person with my family because the entire village was hearing, but our family had the deaf people. So before entering to a new world, I felt like I was the only deaf person in Kenya, but I didn't know about the sign language. So later when my brother called me and joined the Reverend Muhoro, I saw there were a lot of deaf people doing the signing, and I didn't understand anything because I had only learned about
So,
ABCD.
only your brother had taught you the little ones?
Yes. So I started learning. People used to call me if you call a deaf person by waving. So I learned and I picked up the sign. My classmate, he was partially deaf. He knew how to. So I learned sign language. Uh, my good friend, a classmate, he was partially deaf, but he knew the sign language. He was from Kirigoya School for the deaf.
Wait a minute. Viewers, the story is becoming very sweet. Wait, hold. Let us have a short break. We shall be back soon. Welcome back. For sure, we were having a good show, a sweet one with Damaris. Damaris, you said that before all that, you only knew A to Z. So now, how were you interacting with your brother at home?
I communicated with my brother through lip reading. It was only through the mouth. That is where I got to understand what my brother was saying. But himself, he was very conversant with sign language, but we used to use mouth and lip reading to understand each other.
Okay, now I understand that. So you are shocked that you are not the only person who was deaf. Now in school, this was a new world, and you knew it was only your family that had deaf members. The other community didn't have deaf members. How was your experience after joining the new world, seeing different things? Not one, not two, not three. And over again, your new world, people were waving, you were shocked, you didn't have a voice, you were not even able to answer them. How was your experience in the deaf world? Sorry, in the new world?
The first day when I entered the school, I cried.
Why?
I wanted to go back home with my father, but my father told me to.
Why?
I wanted to go back home and ask my father, please, if you can allow me to join a hearing school. But I didn't want to mingle with the deaf students. I was afraid about the school, so fit to give me a deaf girl who will lead and guide me in different. He was in Form 3 and he taught me some sign language and helped me understand the rules and everything in sign language.
For how long did you mentor each other?
For the first 2 weeks in Form 1, we were being given free times before we start serious learning. So the girl, she was in the same class with my brother. So the brother explained to that girl that my sister can only speak, but she doesn't know sign language, so please help her. So my brother had learned a lot in different sign language. So the lady taught me sign language on free times or at night. When we were free, we used to interact and learn. He used to understand sign language because he had learned from in Form 1 together. So those were the ones who taught me sign language. I only took 5 days to learn sign language.
5 days and you were okay?
Yes.
Okay, wow. So now you didn't want to join the school, but you didn't know even where to start. And you felt, maybe everything was negative and it made you not feel like joining the school. Your brother convinced you and told you, hey, wait, you join the school or you drop. You choose one. And after 5 days, you say you were very okay with the sign language. So now, after the 5 days going forward, how was life in school?
After the 5 days, I got the sign name Damaris. Later, in our group, in Mohoro, we have some classes that are mixed with hearing. So the 2 classes for the deaf and the 1 class for hearing. So I wanted to learn Kiswahili because I didn't know about KSL. It was a broken language, but I didn't know how to write it. My brother privately asked me to go and join a deaf class to learn KSL because it was easy for me to pass my exam. So, but I wanted to learn Swahili. I loved Swahili. So, fast forward. So, the insha, English, and now sign language. So, I said, okay, I joined a deaf class.
So in Reverend Mohol, you have a choice where you can choose the direction you want to take, either as a hearing or a
Yes,
deaf student.
hearing or a deaf student.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
So I entered in hearing class. It's okay to enter in a hearing class, there is no problem. But if you're a deaf student and you have experience in Swahili, it's okay, there is no problem. So I thought, and with that advice, I ditched Kiswahili and I started learning KSL. I had learned Kiswahili up to class 8. So later I started learning KSL through movies and videos. And I passed KSL. For the very first time, I got 50%. I wanted to really learn KSL, and I started mixing and mingling with a lot with deaf students. I got prefect for sports from 1 in term 3. The girl who was showing me the steps, he wanted to become the captain for sports. So now I'm in form 1, and she was my friend, and she was leading me and showing me all around. And she wanted to become the captain of sports also. Now, for both of us, we were competing for the same position. So later, the deputy principal, they had interacted with the new with the later the deputy principal who had observed the behavior of the girl who was in form 3. I was just new, so he didn't know about my behavior, so he gave the position of captain. But I was really interested because I was involved in all the sports. So in all the sports that they were in a competition, I was there. I was in a class reading well. I was in top of my class. But the challenge was the KSL. The boy that we were learning together in Form 1, who studied in Kirinyaga, we used to alternate. Him becoming number 1, I become number 2. Him becoming number 2, I become number 1. So in 2018, my studies deteriorated because I had focused more on sports. But when I was in Form 4, my studies didn't deteriorate completely, but I was scoring some low grades.
So meaning all your mind was focused on sports.
Yes, I used to wake up at 4, I run up to until 5, up to 5:30. I go back, take a shower, and then I go back to class. But in my exam, I used to pass. In Form 3, I became a head girl. The head girl who was there previously was hearing, and her behavior wasn't really good. So the principal removed her and appointed me to be the head girl in Form 3. So when I finished Form 3 and in Form 4 in 2018, my grade was very low and I couldn't join the university. So I asked my parents if I could repeat in Form 4. My parents said okay. They supported me with school fees, and the principal was okay for me to come back and do my Form 4. Appointed to be dean, and now I decided to focus more on my studies and leave about the sports. So when I finished, I got a C, and I wanted to join university. So hairdressing. So the auntie taught me about spa. I learned how to call a customer, and I was really good. About 1 year, I didn't study anything. I was just doing the job. I had learned a computer previously, so first I felt like I was really interested to do tourism. So I started and searched for a college where I can learn tourism, and I got Utalii. But Utalii, they only taught about catering, and there were no course for tourism. So I transited and went to Naivasha for another institute where it was only for hearing school students, but I was a deaf student. So my father came and consulted with the principal. They talked, and the father agreed, but the principal was 50-50 because how could you learn without an interpreter? My father gave him the phone number of my previous head teacher. They discussed and talked and consulted. Uh, the former head teacher told him that I learned without an interpreter, and I really passed. So in 2021, on September, I planned and joined the college. When I entered,
Welcome back. When I've never thought about sleeping in a camp, or but I, and this is because I believe everyone for the first time, whether standing, sitting, or they're somewhere, and you see, for example, you're not used to being independent, and you've been having the support of your family when you're at home. In school, you have the head teacher who supported you. When you went ahead to maybe secondary school, the teachers were there to support you, and everyone was there to protect you. Throughout your life, you never experienced being independent, but this is for the first time you come to experience it, and you're looking at life where you're getting to get to bed alone each and every day, and this is something you've never done previously in your life. So the first time sleeping alone, how was it? Because as you've said, it makes a person changes, maybe giving you confidence, and you have maybe you get to pick some interests. And you've talked about loving nature and travels, and sometimes some things I also enjoy traveling. That's something I like doing.
maybe one day we'll go to camping together.
I remember one time I went for camping. I had to sleep in a tent, and I had a tent. I used my torch. I had my torch on the whole night. I never turned it off because I didn't really know what was happening outside. I was never comfortable. I just kept on praying, and I'm hoping I get to see the morning. But that's all about my camping experience. But also, I was so afraid and I was so much fidgeting. I just couldn't sit there and not allow anything to happen.
Sometimes when you volunteer to go to camping, it is like you've stayed in one place or in one environment for a long time. So when you move to a new environment, that is the feeling that you get. When you've left everything, so that is the feeling that you get.
Okay. So, how was your journey for you to become an environmentalist? Okay, so can you please tell us your journey, how you became Miss Tourism?
Okay, in Mist Tourism for Nyandarua County, this is how it started. Previously, when before I sat on my exam in college, I got a text from my county MCA who works in Nyandarua. He told me that I need to apply for told me that my age I wasn't of age limit. So I let it go. Later, the uncle heard about it again, and then he advocated that the age to be reduced. So I advocated for my department, and then they accepted to reduce the age. So later, the challenge for auditioning was the challenge, and the interviews. I didn't prepare myself. I was just normal doing my duties at home, being busy with things at home. So they texted me, please, we are having some auditioning next week. So please come. Don't dress. I mean, you just come I didn't know how to, I didn't have the dress, the shoes, everything I didn't have. But I just went and tried my luck. Uh, I'm a deaf person. I didn't know how to model, but I had a lot of challenges, but I decided to go. So they contacted my parents. We don't have You don't have money, but just try and use something so that can help you for your auditioning. So I looked for some white dress, some white shoes, and then I decided to go. Uh, at the auditioning, I won the question about Nyandarua County, and then I later progressed to the final, where now
Okay.
all the contestants will be coming to join the pageant. So everyone was there, and then we started discussing the first one, the second one, many categories, themes.
Okay, that is
I
interesting.
didn't know about the themes. I thought the audition was the final, and then me given the award, and then I leave. So the themes, traditional wear, I didn't know all about that. So they asked me to train about how to model and how to catwalk. I watched the catwalk on YouTube's in my home, and that made me I made some white tips and really made some steps towards everything and to modeling. I trained alone. I used to go to shops, trekking back home, using the modeling capacity. Modeling, going to home, going to shop. I was all about modeling.
So now everything that was happening in your life was actually a change, something different. You have joined modeling.
I got the dress and the things that was needed, the culture wear, the tradition wear. I got all the categories right. So rudisha nyuma kidogo, sino? The culture wear, the cultural things. So I tried and asked the model. Now the model has finished. Can I please be helped so that I can attain some things and buy for some things? So the dinner wear, the dinner dress.
Yes, the address.
Yes, I missed the dinner dress. I thought it was just as a normal dress like yours, but they said no, you need to have a dress with stars and glitters. So I tried and looked for a shop, and they told me it was 10,000.
What? 10,000 for a
10,000.
dress?
Imagine. Uh, my parents had no money, so that was my challenge. My family was stacked, so I pleaded with the bank to get a loan, but they didn't approve it. So I decided to make a deal with the shopkeeper. He told me this dress will be yours if you win the contest, but if you fail, you have to pay
Wow.
for 10,000. I said
What?
okay. I decided to take the faith, and I just accepted the deal. So I took the dress.
What an agreement.
So 2 days before the modeling, the contest, I agreed with the shopkeeper that he should come and see, so that I don't lie about winning or failing the contest. So we planned the context. Everything was good. He told me to start. Told me to start the category. I thought I will be put in the middle, but they told me to start. So in 24, it was 14 contestant and all that 16. I was the first one. I was skeptical, a little bit shy, but people were celebrating me, and that made me feel confident. So I continued with the context. Later, in the midnight, all the categories were done, and then they started asking me questions. So the first question was about me. I asked correctly. If you failed, you had to go back, and then you progress. So they started announcing people who have won, and then the final was me because I was the number one. So the governor of Nyandarua County was there, and all the staff people who works in the county were there. So they were like, how can a deaf person win a contest among the disability people, among the people with hearing, and she's a disability. She has disability. Now there was another person who was there who was having disability, but she won on the category of disabled people. But I won overall the category of disability and the hearing people. So they gave me a check and they offered me a job at the county government for the tourist sector.
Wow.
Every whatever I learned in school, I got a job that matched with whatever I learned in school. I got another call from Nairobi at the Germany embassy. They called me. They wanted to propose me to be a director in filming,
Wow.
but I hadn't learned about filming, so it was just my passion and interest. I wanted to act. So after the interview, I'm Zungu from German. And I had learned about filmmaking. So I was just interested and I wanted to be an actor. So the interview, it went well. They had an interpreter, a Mzungu interpreter from German. So he recently came. That time we hadn't met before, so it was our first time to meet. The German called me to make a story and become an actor. An actor for me from August. So that was the month that the film was projected.
Congratulations.
Now I was working as a company in that company as a director of filming and also doing some typing and also as a set director, making everything in decoration. So that is the work that I was doing there. And now I'm working as a film director. I was recently called by Hotel for Tourism to to take a video for tourism at Sarova Panafric. They called me for an interview. It hasn't done it hasn't happened yet because something happened to my family member and I had to postpone the interview. So I asked them to change for the date of the interview uh, because something had happened with the family member. So that is me.
Wow.
Sometimes the deaf people say I'm a lucky person because I got a easy job very easily. But you see, the challenges that I've faced, there are a lot, and getting job is not really easy.
That is so true. That is so true. I love how you've actually expressed and said everything from how you are young, how you started, and how you've actually grown up. Because somewhere people look at maybe you and maybe they can decide the opportunities that you're supposed to take, but maybe sometimes they don't accept you for these opportunities and they overlook you because you're deaf instead of being there and supporting you. But you've had enough support in your journey and you've actually made transformation in getting these opportunities. At the same time, I love the confidence that you have because when opportunities present themselves, someone might think that you're not enough, but you have actually even tried, you have taken the step to try. And we have the deaf in the world, we have the hearing world, and you have actually even gotten to work. And I want to tell our viewers because I want to tell our viewers something because when you joined modeling, it gave you a responsibility to represent your people. At the same time, you were given an opportunity she's had, and she's not only focused on one area, she's actually practiced harder for her to be able to transform her mind, and she's actually learned that there's good and and you've seen actually how she was able to transform from being a marathon person, how she broke her leg, but that did not even make her feel like she's ready to give up. No, she decided to open a new door for herself, which, as you can see, was modeling. And she did not just sit down and say, I'm deaf, I have a disability because my leg is broken. No, 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 no. She just rose up and went to look for the opportunities. I really want to congratulate you so much and thank you so much for sharing your story with us and our viewers. Please, if you feel like you're ready to give up, just please join the voice show where you're going to be giving you some motivation and some mentorship. And we're going to educate all of you and any other person who feels like they are not in the right track. Thank you so much. Let's see you next on our next show. Goodbye.